Welcome to this video where we'll be discussing one of the most significant events in recent history, the murder of George Floyd. On May 25, 2020, George Floyd, a 46-year-old African-American man, was killed by a Minneapolis police officer, Derek Chauvin. The incident sparked outrage and protests across the United States and the world, shining a light on long-standing issues of systemic racism and police brutality. The case has become a symbol of injustice, leading to widespread social and political reactions, policy changes in law enforcement, and renewed efforts to address racial inequality. In this video, we'll be exploring the details of George Floyd's death, the impact it has had on society, and the ongoing fight for justice and change. Understanding the history of police brutality and racial inequality in America. Prior to the George Floyd case, the United States had a long-standing issue with police brutality and racial inequality. Black Americans, in particular, have been disproportionately affected by these issues. For decades, there have been reports of police using excessive force against black people, often resulting in injury or death. Studies have shown that black people are more likely to be stopped, searched, and arrested by police than white people, even when they have not committed a crime. They are also more likely to be given harsher sentences than white people for the same crime. This is partly due to systemic racism that has been ingrained in many aspects of American society, including law enforcement. Many police departments have been accused of racial profiling, where officers use a person's race as a factor in their decision to stop or search them. This practice has led to a deep mistrust between black communities and law enforcement, making it difficult to bridge the gap and build positive relationships. Furthermore, police officers who use excessive force against black people are often not held accountable for their actions. They may receive little or no punishment, even when their actions result in the death of an unarmed person. This lack of accountability has only served to reinforce the notion that black lives do not matter in the eyes of some law enforcement officials. In summary, police brutality and racial inequality have been long-standing issues in the United States prior to the George Floyd case. These issues are deeply rooted in systemic racism and have resulted in a lack of trust between black communities and law enforcement. It is important to acknowledge and address these issues in order to move towards a more just and equitable society. George Floyd's life. George Floyd was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, on October 14, 1973, to George Perry and Larsenia Sissy Jones Floyd. When his parents separated, he moved with his family to Houston's 3rd Ward, where he attended school and gained recognition for his athleticism and towering height. He was co-captain of the basketball team and played as a power forward and also participated in football while studying at Yates High School. Floyd was the first among his siblings to attend college, receiving a football scholarship to study at South Florida Community College. He then transferred to Texas A&M University, Kingsville, where he played basketball before dropping out. Floyd was friends with Steven Jackson, a future NBA player, and was referred to as his twin, due to their similar physical appearance. Although his height varied, he was recorded to be 6 feet 6 inches tall at his tallest. In 1995, Floyd moved back to Houston after attending college and began working as an automotive customizer while also playing club basketball. He also pursued a career in music, performing as a rapper under the stage name Big Floyd in the hip-hop group Screwed Up Click. His deep-voiced rhymes were described by the New York Times as purposeful, and focused on themes such as driving cars with oversized rims and his pride in Houston's 3rd Ward. Floyd later worked with the rap group Presidential Playas and contributed to their album Block Party, which was released in 2000. From 1997 to 2005, George Floyd was incarcerated 8 times for a range of charges, including drug possession, theft, and trespassing. In 2004, he was convicted of possessing less than half a gram of crack cocaine based on the testimony of police officer Gerald Goins. In 2007, Floyd was charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon after entering an apartment and holding a pistol to a woman's stomach while searching for items to steal with 5 other men. He was arrested 3 months later during a traffic stop and identified by victims of the robbery. In 2009, Floyd was sentenced to 5 years in prison as part of a plea deal and was released on parole in January 2013. After his release, Floyd became involved with Resurrection Houston, a Christian church and ministry. He mentored young men, delivered meals to senior citizens, and posted anti-violence videos to social media. He also volunteered with other projects, such as the Angel by Nature Foundation, a charity founded by rapper Trey DeTruth. Later, Floyd participated in a ministry that brought men from the 3rd Ward to Minnesota in a church work program with drug rehabilitation and job placement services. Despite having made mistakes that cost him some years of his life, a friend of his acknowledged that Floyd had been turning his life around through religion. In 2014, Floyd moved to Minneapolis to help rebuild his life and find work. After completing a 90-day rehabilitation program, Floyd took up security work at a Salvation Army homeless shelter. However, he lost this job and took several other jobs. An influential member of his community, Floyd was respected for his ability to relate to others who had experienced hardship and setbacks, having served time in prison and lived in a poverty-stricken project in Houston. Despite his own shortcomings and flaws, he was admired for his efforts to mentor young men and his commitment to anti-violence and community outreach programs. In a video message to the youth in his neighborhood, Floyd expressed his disdain for violence and urged them to put down their weapons and remember that they are loved by him and God. In May 2019, George Floyd was detained by Minneapolis police during a traffic stop. Floyd was found with a bottle of pain pills and was taken to the police station where he told police that the pills were related to his addiction and that he did not sell them. The officers encouraged him to relax and helped calm him down when he appeared agitated. Later, an ambulance was called as they grew worried about his condition. In 2020, George Floyd was working part-time as a security guard at a club and had another job as a delivery driver before losing it due to a minor crash and driving without a valid commercial license. The COVID-19 pandemic worsened his personal financial situation, and he was hospitalized after overdosing on drugs in March. He also contracted COVID-19 in April but recovered after a few weeks. The tragic details of George Floyd's arrest and the 9-minute 29-second kneeling. On May 25, 2020, a call was made to the police by an employee of Cup Foods grocery store, alleging that George Floyd had used a counterfeit $20 bill. Floyd was sitting in a car with 2 other passengers when police arrived at the scene. The police officers proceeded to forcefully remove Floyd from the car and handcuff him. Floyd was tragically murdered by Derek Chauvin, a white police officer in Minneapolis. Chauvin pressed his knee against Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds while Floyd was handcuffed and lying face down on the street. 2 other officers further restrained Floyd while a 4th prevented onlookers from intervening. This all occurred as Floyd repeatedly pleaded that he couldn't breathe, and in the final 2 minutes, he was motionless and had no pulse. Despite emergency medical technicians arriving to treat Floyd, Chauvin kept his knee on Floyd's neck and back. The entire incident was captured on a witness's cell phone video and sparked a global movement against police brutality and racial injustice. The medical examiner's report concluded that George Floyd's death was a homicide, as his heart stopped while he was being restrained. The report stated that his death was caused by cardiopulmonary arrest complicating law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression, although the presence of fentanyl and recent methamphetamine use may have increased the likelihood of death. A second autopsy commissioned by Floyd's family also found that his death was a homicide due to asphyxia resulting from neck and back compression. The report ruled out any underlying medical problems that may have contributed to Floyd's death and stated that Floyd's ability to speak while under Chauvin's knee did not mean he could breathe. These findings add to the already significant outrage and calls for justice in the wake of George Floyd's death. In a move to address the wrongful death of George Floyd, the Minneapolis City Council approved a settlement of $27 million to the Floyd family on March 12, 2021. This significant settlement underscores the devastating impact of Floyd's death and the urgent need for systemic change to address police brutality and racial inequality in the United States. The settlement is a significant step in acknowledging the pain and trauma experienced by the Floyd family and serves as a reminder of the ongoing fight for justice and accountability. Following the death of George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, the police officer who kneeled on Floyd's neck, was fired and charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. On April 20, 2021, Chauvin was found guilty on all 3 charges. On May 12, 2021, Judge Peter Cahill allowed for the prosecution to seek a greater prison sentence for Chauvin, stating that he had treated Floyd with particular cruelty. On June 25, 2021, Judge Cahill sentenced Chauvin to 22.5 years in prison. Black Lives Matter and the fight against racial inequality and police brutality. The murder of George Floyd and the subsequent trial of Derek Chauvin have sparked a wide range of social reactions, including protests, policy changes, and a renewed focus on addressing racial inequality and police brutality. One of the most prominent reactions has been the Black Lives Matter movement, which has gained significant momentum in the wake of Floyd's death. The movement has brought attention to the systemic racism and violence that Black people face at the hands of law enforcement and has led to protests and demonstrations in cities around the world. As a result of the Black Lives Matter movement and other advocacy efforts, there have been several measures implemented to address racial inequality and police brutality. Some cities and states have reformed their police departments, including implementing new training programs and increasing accountability measures for officers. Others have created community-led initiatives to address the root causes of crime and violence, such as investing in education and social services. The movement has also led to widespread discussions around the role of law enforcement in society and the need for systemic change. Many advocates have called for defunding the police and reallocating resources to social services, while others argue for reforms to police practices and increased accountability measures for officers. Overall, the social reactions to George Floyd's murder and the Black Lives Matter movement have brought attention to the urgent need to address racial inequality and police brutality. While progress has been made, there is still much work to be done to create a more just and equitable society for all. Thank you for watching this video about the George Floyd case. The events of May 25, 2020, were a tragic reminder of the deep-rooted issues of systemic racism and police brutality in our society. While the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin brought a sense of justice, there is still much work to be done in the fight for equality and justice. It is our hope that this video has shed light on the impact of the George Floyd case and serves as a call to action for all of us to work towards a more just and equitable future. Let us continue to work together towards building a better world for all. Thank you for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe for more content.